I don't know if anybody wants to stand up for a second, because I know why I really wanted to. Please do, just, just out of my own sake, and then you can sit down. It's been a long day. Okay, now you can sit. Okay, let me just, I have to use notes. This cover slide shows what I think must be one of the most beautiful prospects around. This is in Norway. This is a graphite prospect. It's something that maybe you'll read some news about sometime in the future. And the next slide shows one of Ravel's prospects in Norway. This is more typical. It's a brown field. And the pink mineralization on the left side there is the leader of some zinc ore. Now this mine is about 100 years old. It's been sitting there for obviously a long time. And the zinc ore there has a grade of 36.6%, and in some places over 40%. But it's been sitting there doing nothing. Now, the question is why? Why has nothing been done with this? And I asked you to step back and look at this picture through the eyes of an oil and gas country, which everybody knows Norway is. And the first thing is, why would you make that big hole when what you're trying to get is actually quite small? We've named our technology after earthworms, and I also invite you to look at this slide again and look at it through the eyes of an earthworm. If an earthworm were trying to eat zinc inside an ore, would it operate in the same kind of way that a mine or conventional mining is done? I think that it's safe to say that the oil and gas industry doesn't make holes bigger than it needs to. And earthworms tend to sense their environment and move through the environment in response to what they're trying to achieve. In the oil and gas industry, we make small holes and we do complex operations remotely. This is, when you look at what's going on in the mining industry in terms of automation, there seems to be a movement towards automation of trucks, automation of fleets, but the entire process is actually quite different from what the oil and gas industry does. We do things complex and in a totally different manner. And we've been doing so for a long, long time in an environment which I beg to one-up the gentleman from this morning, that is much tougher. We operate in temperatures of 150 C, in acid, and in pressures of 700 bars. So there's an opportunity to learn from the oil and gas industry. We are looking, if we were going to drill something out like that ore body, we would use different drill bits. I'm not going to talk too much about drill bits and what we would use for hard rocks, but suffice it to say that there are probably things like these stinger cutters which are used for hard cherts in drilling hard rocks in oil and gas. I know that rocks encountered in mining are much harder than the sedimentary stuff that we deal with, and there are many technical reasons why drilling is done differently, but there's still opportunity to do things differently. I'd better hurry up. Worms and drillers in the oil and gas industry, when we're directionally drilling, sense the environment. We don't try to follow a predetermined plan, depending on the operation, of course, but a worm will sense what's around it. It will burrow and respond to what it sees as it goes. And in the oil and gas industry, this is called geosteering. You'll use a logging assembly that's near the bit, and you will read into the formation a close distance and a further distance, and adjust your trajectory of the drill bit as you move forward. The last slide here, which is part of our technical solution, shows backfilled burrows. It's a trace fossil. This is something that is not done in the oil and gas industry, at least as far as I know. There's only been one case where this technology has been applied, where backfilling has been applied, and it's something that the founders of Ravel worked on. And if you imagine what it would be like to backfill a high-pressure hole, then you would say, well, it had better be an impermeable and strong backfill. You don't want to blow out an oil and gas well. So having worked on a project where we were backfilling essentially oil and gas wells, led us to this solution for small-scale mining. The picture doesn't show it so well, but basically what we build is a bottom hole assembly, which we call an annelid. It's built in segments, just like a segmented worm. And it has a tractor. It can move on feet, and it moves into a borehole with a drilling head at the front. It bores out a small hole and pumps to the surface through a coiled tubing system the ore that it's drilling through. You can assemble a series of segments which contain geophysical sensors, and they guide the drilling assembly as it moves through the ore body. The ore is pumped through the coiled tubing to a separation plant where the high-value minerals are removed, and the waste is then pumped down to another bottom hole assembly, or annelid as we call them, which has been moved into a previously bored section of the ore body. There it's backfilled, and so essentially you have a system where one hole is constantly being mined and another is being backfilled. The backfilling, obviously, like in mining, provides continued ground support, and it also disposes of the waste. We think the system will allow small-scale mining to return to jurisdictions where it's currently very difficult to operate, like Norway, where there are many small, rich, high-grade deposits which can't be mined with conventional technologies. And I'd just like to emphasize, this is the closing slide, that this idea, our technology, it's not like mining asteroids. This is not offshore mining. This is based on existing technology. Geosteering is something that is done in the oil and gas industry. Yes, it has to be modified. Some of the resistivity sensors and so on have to be adjusted, but this is not fantasy. So I'll just leave it there and open up to questions, as I actually am ahead of schedule.